So we are going to start the last session. We have two more presentations from both from Tanzania. The first speaker is Diana Ruegasira. Okay, great, I'm learning. From the University of Dar es Salaam. And she will tell us about the Technology Transfer Alliance collaboration platform.
Thank you.
Please.
Good evening, everybody. It seems most people are very tired, so I won't take much of your time, but at least you won't be more bored. And actually, I'll talk about Technology Transfer Alliance collaboration platform. So I'll just go briefly on what I'm going to do. I'll not go through the slides because of time, but I'll rather just explain what it means, what I'm supposed to do, something like that. So basically, the idea is many developing countries, we have a lot of problems. So the issue is how can we solve it? Which means we have to go to find an expert from other countries, then come to our country to solve the solution. So that was very, very difficult for us. I think therefore the idea came after some people, maybe other people from Sweden, University, Professor Vision and others, they think maybe that we must have a tool, a collaboration platform whereby we can share the ideas. If you have the technology, you have an idea, or you are a researcher, you can provide the solution to our country so that there's no need of somebody to go there or to come from our country, from other country to Tanzania and solve the problem. So basically the idea is to generate a platform where we can have the collaboration from the student's point of view, where a student can have the knowledge, can get the knowledge and obtain the credits. If it's a PhD student, can be awarded. If it's a master's student, can also be awarded. The researcher can also continue to develop their part, as well as the industry. If he or she has the problem, can be solved. And then at the end, our community has already given the solution. So our aim for this TTA, which is Technology Transfer Alliance, is to have an impact in our society. And we can see this structure whereby a student can get the education, then if you have the technology, you can embed to the system, then people can do the research, and then we provide the service to the society. So basically, that's the aim of our platform. Therefore, the aim also there is to support collaboration training to foster education among partners, sharing some resources, documents, or videos, anything concerning about how we can develop and solve the solutions in our society. So till now, this is the implementation platform where we have first level, second level, and third level. And actually, we have come up with, there are some of, on the first layer, there is hardware infrastructure where there are several servers there, server from a wide winner lifeline. There's also Katana SaaS gateway frame relay. We're also server for installation and event management software. We're also server for installing the de facto, which is like that one. So there are two is for administration team, and there are three is for editorial board of the portal and for developers. So some of the documents, you can have some links there because I've already uploaded on the forum. You can also see those links and some of the you can see some of the updates. And actually, so far, because there are a lot of countries, I mean universities involved in this project. We have, like Tanzania, we have University of Dar es Salaam. There's also DIT, Dar es Salaam Institute of Technology. In Finland, there's Aalto. In Sweden, there's KTH. So there are several universities involved, so that at least we can have a big idea on it. I mean, we can have different kind of solutions and problems in different countries. So up to now, like in our country, University of Dar es Salaam, we have developed the curriculum, which will be in case. I mean, if we get the, I mean, if we get the Senate approval, actually it's already approved it. Maybe it's based on the student. We are going to recruit 25 students and 80 PhD students based on the two projects. The first one will be iGrid, which is smart grid, and one of my fellows will present on that. And another one will be related with Mayor ICT weather stations. So these are two groups of projects which we are going to run based on these students for masters as well as PhD. And based for these 2 days, I've realized some of the tools which I can use for this platform, whereby I can use Invenio tool as well as One Data tool. What I wanted to do for this tool is, because it's involved about collaboration and sharing of material, it should be a means of whereby researchers, students, and maybe lecturers or whatever can share the materials. In case you have some videos or documents, you can share with us. Or if it's an industry, you can also share with us, maybe I want this problem to be solved, so that we can assign to a student or a supervisor so that they can go in that way. So based on these tools and expert, maybe in case of anything more, but for my case, I've just thinking on only these two, Invenio tool and as well as One Data tool, and of course future gateway for Sci-GaIA. Maybe of the briefly of what I'm going to do.
Thank you very much, Diana. Very happy to see that one of the use cases is related to education. That is very important if we need to spread this open science message and paradigm. Questions or comments to Diana? I was thinking that we have a rather clear idea. So we need to understand if we start to deploy, One Data we can access, so we have the test bed that we can play with. For Invenio in the future gateway, we need to understand if we are going to use ours or we need to deploy something in Dar es Salaam. Okay, then what we could start doing is to, if you have some hardware there where we can deploy our software, we can install there or something. Okay. Okay, so if there are no more questions, okay, thanks again, Diana. And we move to the last speaker of the day, who's Aaron Condoro, also from University of Dar es Salaam, and he will talk us about hybrid, smart grid capacity development and enhancement in Tanzania. Where your mic? Where the mic? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just to introduce myself again, my name is Aaron Condoro from the University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And my presentation today will be concerned with iGrid. It's called iGrid. And just to start with, this will be the outline of the presentation. I'll start by describing briefly the problem that led or motivated this use case that I'm going to present. And then talk about the use case itself, the goal, actually the solution that we're proposing in order to solve this problem. And then I'm going to describe some of the computing and data that will need to be performed in order to solve this problem. And then I'll highlight a little bit about the data, the model of the computation and data that will be involved throughout the process of doing this use case. And then I'll talk about the implementation strategy for this Hackfest here, what I'm planning to do for the rest of the days. And then finally, just to conclude of what we're hoping to achieve at the end of this Hackfest here. Okay, so to start with, I'll just describe the problem and give a little bit of context of what we're trying to do. So essentially in Tanzania there is a problem for access to reliable and affordable electric power. And this is especially for communities in rural areas. Most of them still don't have access to electrical power. They're not connected to the grid. And there are goals and strategies by the government. For example, there is a plan in order to increase access to electrical power up to 70% by 2025. So part of this part of this we saw that because they are using traditional means, some of the problems is that there is a problem with reliability, especially as you go into these rural communities. So because of this, we propose to use, as part of the strategy, we are proposing to use solar, we are proposing to use off-grid solar power smart grids. So essentially we are trying to create, to optimize this process of power generation by creating autonomous solar powered nanogrids. And this essentially will be saving an off-grid community in rural areas of about 10 to 100 households. And essentially this will be completely off-grid and running in an autonomous way, but also we see it as being able to be integrated later to the central grid whenever it's needed. And essentially this means what? This means there's going to be an automation of the whole process of power generation. So essentially it will be an automation of the monitoring, evaluation, analysis, control and management. The whole this process will be done in a smart way using ICT technologies in order to provide cheap power to these off-grid communities which don't have access. And essentially this, we propose this solution in order to improve the efficiency, as I explained, of this power generation process, and also to optimize the operational costs, right, to make it more efficient, so that this power that is going to be generated will be cheap, and in that way affordable to these communities which don't have a lot of economic power. And so we are at the beginning of this whole project, and as you see, the scope is very wide, right? Essentially, we are going to, at the end of this, we are going to have an actual prototype of the small grid that will be running and monitoring and generating power and everything. And so, as you see, the scope here involves a lot of different stages, right? So, for example, there is going to be a power requirement analysis stage. So, this is actually essentially what we are at the moment, trying to choose, first of all, the locations where, there are potential locations where we are going to investigate which will be the best one to implement this. So, of course, we will have to do some power requirement analysis, right? The kind of households, what kind of activities they do, what kind of power they need. And also, eventually, we are going to have to investigate on the best methods to generate this power harvesting solutions. Of course, we know we're going to be using solar power, but we need to investigate the best technology to do that. We are also going to look at storage techniques, the best way to or technology to use in these communities, depending on the environment. How to store this energy that is going to be generated. Because as you realize, using renewable power, these are not reliable power sources. Right? Sometimes, depending on the weather and other variables, there might not be power, or it might be varying from different times of the day. Also, we have to design different control systems, right? Architectures of how everything is going to be working together and coordinating. In the concept of a grid, there are many components that are involved throughout the process, from the generation until power reaches at the end user, right? And also part of this also will involve ensuring reliability and robustness, right? This is the whole idea behind the power grid, the smart grid. right? Making sure that power is reliable, right? So if there is faults, the system can automatically reconfigure itself and make sure that power is not interrupted in any way. And also, I mean, another aspect one is going to be monitoring, right, and maintenance, right? So there's going to be involved a lot of sensors, right, measuring, making sure that power is stable and maintaining everything, every component if there is faults and things like that. So the scope is very wide, and a lot of different stages will need to be investigated in order to make this possible. So, and some of the challenges, obviously, while going through all these stages will be, you know, different kind of communication technologies that we are going to use, right? So, because these smart grids, these nanogrids are going to be implemented in rural areas where the infrastructure, for example, communication infrastructure is not really that much advanced, right? So, it's going to be a challenge. And as I mentioned, one of the important aspects of this smart grid is constant collection of real-time data and monitoring, stuff like that. So the communication infrastructure is very important. Also, some of the challenges there is going to be in the control architecture, right? Choosing different kinds of technology that can help us. For example, multi-agent architectures or technologies, right? Where we are going to use agent-based system in order to do the controlling and monitoring of everything. And also, lastly, big data handling of this, because as part of the monitoring, there's going to be a collection of sensor information in real time, right? A lot of it in order to do different kinds of analysis, you know, for example, demand response and stuff like that. So these are some of the challenges that we see. And so, I mean, in light of that, since we have to go through all that stages in order to achieve what we want to do, there are some different computing, I mean, tasks that we will need to do in all these different stages to make it possible. And so, for example, we will eventually use a lot of monitoring and measurement technologies, right? So this I mean, includes things like PMU. These are phasor management units, called essentially just components that measure the different voltage and the current levels in the grid and collecting this information, right? In order for, I mean, for controlling purposes and for other kinds of analysis. And also, of course, a lot of location information, right? As all these components will be dispersed in large areas, right? So we are also going to collect a lot of information of like this. And also, as I explained, a lot of real-time data. So most of this will be timestamped and synchronized, right? Because one aspect of the smart grid is always to have a clear idea of the health of the grid at any time, right? So, I mean, a lot of this is going to be involved. Of course, we are also going to, use a lot of performance analysis tools, right? And there are special tools already which are, are used by electrical engineers in order, for example, to do things like load flow analysis, right? Measuring different loads at different points of time, right? Things like during peak hours, the amount of load, during off-peak, right? Things like that, in order to make sure that power is stable at all times. And this, of course, it will involve a lot of modeling, right, of different situations or different use cases, depending, for example, on the time of the day or during maybe different activities, for example. The usage of power might be different, right? So we're going to do a lot of modeling and running algorithms to make sure that power is generated in a stable way. Of course, this will include also stability analysis tools, and all of these, they are specialized tools which are already being used for it, right? Modeling the power generation, right, from various sources. So we are going to do a lot of simulations, right? In order to, because we are going to use renewable sources, right? Which, as I explained, the power profile varies, right, depending on the weather, time of the day, and things like that. right? So in order to make sure that power is stable, right, we're going to simulate different scenarios, right, and run different algorithms in order to make sure that the stability is there. And of course, also we are going to employ computational tools, right, different optimization algorithms, right. And here we are seeing that we're going to use of a lot of artificial and heuristic, algorithms in order to do this kind of optimization, right? And this especially applies to the aspect of the grid where, for example, we can forecast depending on previous, on previous data, we can forecast maybe when load will increase, right? Depending on historical data, right? So we can more predict this and prepare for that, right? Or even depending on the weather conditions, right? By studying previous weather conditions throughout maybe the last few weeks or days, right? We can optimize the process of power generation to anticipate this, right? So we are going to be using a lot of these technologies and while trying to achieve that. And in light of that, by using those different technologies, some of the data that we anticipate will be using a lot will involve, for example, PMU measurements, right? This essentially breaks down to voltage levels, current, phase, frequency. Essentially, these are different parameters that will need to be collected, right, when monitoring the operation of the grid. There's going to be collected a lot of location information, right? For example, satellite imagery and pictures and things like that. For example, at the moment, while we are doing the survey of different locations where we could potentially implement this prototype, we are collecting a lot of this information because there are some requirements, for example, of space, where these, solar panels can be implemented, things like that. Areas where there is no, blockage of the sun and things like that. So we anticipate also a lot collecting a lot of location information, right? We also, as I explained, right, are eventually going to run a lot of optimization algorithms, right, in order to perform analysis on the operation of the grid, right, and coming up with the best control algorithms, right, to make sure that power is generated efficiently. And of course, also a lot of modeling tools are being employed. For example, one of it is called PV Design Pro, right? This is used to model, to model power generated, right, in different scenarios. So essentially all this boils down to using a lot of simulation tools in order to study the operation of the grid and implement appropriate algorithms to control it. Okay, so as I explained, you see the scope of this is very big. To implement the complete prototype until it's fully functioning and running. My strategy here actually is to sort of create a framework, because we are remember we are still at the very early stages. So my strategy here is, and of course this is going to be a team effort, right? So for example, at the moment it's me and my colleague here who just presented, but eventually there is going to be another team of members who are going to be working on these different aspects that I've explained, right, in order to collectively make possible for this grid to operate. So my strategies here is going to be to create sort of the framework to make sure that it will be easier eventually to coordinate all our efforts and also integrate all of these tools that we anticipate we are going to be using, right? So in light of that, and after going through all the tools that have been presented, I'm planning first of all to use the future gateway as the framework, right, to implement the iGrid gateway, So this will be the format that I'm hoping that will enable eventually to integrate all these different tools that we are going to use, as I explained, for different aspects of the grid, right? Eventually, as we move along with the project. And also, I'm hoping to use the Indigo Data Cloud for the computing resources, right? Where we are essentially going to be implementing so my plan is also to be implementing sort of an iGrid gateway using a portal, a web portal, where eventually all the members that are going to be working on this project can interface, right, with all the different tools, upload information and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to instantiate that in the Indigo Data Cloud. I'm also planning to use GLibrary, right, in order to provide easy access to the collection of all this information that we'll be collecting, right, and storing in different databases, right. I'm hoping to use GLibrary in order to make it easy, right, for example, different analysis maybe that is going to be done later by different teams on data that was previously collected. Also, I also see useful using the open access repository, right, for sharing publications, different sensor data that is going to be collected and analysis documents of these data, right? And also, I see useful also using the Kepler Workflow Manager, right? For as from the presentation I saw, for example, there are already inbuilt, pre-built components for data manipulation, for example, for geodata, right? Which is something that we will be using in our use case. So I also see this as a good tool for performing data manipulation of this information, performing low-flow analysis, and also sharing different models that we are going to be designing among different members. So those are the tools that I've identified that will be useful for this case. And essentially, how I'm going to use that is essentially I'm planning for the next few days to first of all implement a web interface for this iGrid smart grid, right? Because at the moment we are starting from scratch, right? We don't have any interface or any hardware or nothing, right? So I'm planning to create a web face, right, for this smart grid that is going to be library based, and essentially laying out the framework, right, guided by all these different aspects of the grid, creating different sections where eventually we are going to be integrating all these different tools. And also, of course, setting up the use case infrastructure as I explained. And I'm hoping to use the resources that are available here, because at the moment we don't have any to deploy a virtual machine, right? So, and essentially instantiating and installing, configuring this iGrid gateway. Also creating, of course, I'm hoping to create an instance of GLibrary, right? And try to use it for a sample collection of data. For example, as I explained, at this stage we are starting to collect information on different locations that we are thinking about in order to implement this prototype. So I think GLibrary will be very useful for this purpose. Also, I'm planning to also, if possible, cloning our instance for this open access repository. As I said, like, this is going to be a group effort, right? And there are different teams that are going to be involved. So I'm hoping this will be a good tool for us in order to coordinate our activities, right? So when we are publishing our results or collecting data, for example, collecting this sensor information, we can all be using the open access repository in order to coordinate our efforts in a good way. And also, I'm planning to install and configure Kepler, right? As I explained, I think it will be useful for us in designing our models and sharing it among different members, right? As we continue designing the structure of our smart grid and all the different components that are going to be involved. So just to summarize, right? My plan here is essentially, what we are hoping to get from this is essentially, first of all, to be using all the tools here that have been displayed in order to facilitate collaboration, right? while we are implementing this project. As I said, this is a team effort, and a lot of team members are going to be involved, and different people are going to be working on different aspects to make this possible. So I'm hoping to use the collaboration tools here in order to coordinate our efforts. And also, I'm also planning to, as I said, to create here, the first step will be to create the framework which will eventually help us to integrate the different tools, right? And these tools, for different tools to facilitate, first of all, the design, validation, deployment, operation, and maintenance, right, of this low voltage DC nanogrid that we are hoping to implement in one of these off-grid communities. So yeah, so that's my presentation. Thank you.
Questions, Tuan?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, I see this is a quite complex use case.
Yes.
Two different problems. One is a technical problem. You want to share electricity for 100 houses, more or less.
Yes.
So this means you are aiming to around 200 kilowatts or so, or?
Yes, something around that.
Okay. So, but you don't plan to have, maybe you plan to have a central batteries set up, or you are going to complement with a generator of gas or similar?
No, we are planning here to have batteries.
Yeah, so you will have the panels,
yes.
Solar panels. There's no wind there?
No. We're just using solar. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, from my point of view, this is a bit decoupled from the problem, the rest of the problem. You will have to solve this problem first of having such an autonomous system with the solar. I don't know what is the solar incidence on panel. Maybe it's quite high.
Just to give some context, Aaron's he's not acting alone. So this is part of the collaboration with Salam and KTH and Stockholm.
But what I mean is that this is a quite technical problem.
Yeah, the working aspect of that.
Yeah, but I mean, but to me it's a bit decoupled of the other problem because you're not going to interconnect the different villages, let's say. Because we are talking about the grid connection, but the grid is, let's say, in the electrical sense, it's restricted to the village of 100 houses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yes.
So, then, I think this is, to me, it's, you don't need so much the rest of the things for computing, for simulating all this. Because once you have the experience of one village, okay, you will be able to extrapolate that to other villages. And once you have a prototype running, I think this will not be so difficult. I mean, you likely have already statistics on the usage of energy in village of 100 inhabitants, or 200 or 300, and you can extrapolate from there. But as long as you have enough batteries, because that's the key problem.
Okay.
Or you complement that then with gas generators that you can move around. That's another possibility, not to forget, because sometimes the batteries.
I think the point of this work is they're trying to set up an economy of energy, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, so a commodity market based on the amount of energy that a village generates, and whether or not they can sell that to another village.
Yeah, but I understand this is a kind of closed system, no? Because you will
additionally, this is just a work that his group is just starting to work on, as part of his PhD degree.
Mm-hmm.
So to some of us, it might be that it's quite easy, but when you learn to acquire a degree, then you
I understand this. My point is mainly that all the technical computing difficulties, from my point of view, should be decoupled of this technical point on generating the electricity.
Well, that's fair enough, but I mean, we're not here to discuss that. We're here to discuss the future and the future gateway side. So I mean, it's just part of that. It's I agree that there's a huge amount of stuff to do.
Yes.
But the other thing I would say probably this moment is identify small parts to do.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think it would be good also to try and come up with an answer, because that's a fair observation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got a terrible job because you've got the computer scientists to satisfy, and then the electrical engineers to keep happy.
Yeah,
exactly.
So just narrow it down to reduce the scope, so that you do a pilot first within a few a smaller community, and then you then start to extend it. I think that's the point he's trying to make, you know. So
yeah, that once you, I mean, the technical problem may be hard, but it's quite well known, let's say, how to provide energy for 200 kilowatts regularly with solar panels. Okay? And then, if you want to optimize or you want to, then you go into the computing problem. There I agree. Then you have to model your community, but I don't expect much gain to be fair. Because once you have the experience of some communities, well, of course, there's another point that is important, is how you train the people then to use their electricity. Okay. This will be quite expensive. But for that, you can use the computing.
All right. Yeah.
Just three things to highlight. There's been a lot of work on smart grids using agent-based simulation. Something that, I mean, we have a demonstrator of agent-based simulation on the gateway.
Okay.
So tomorrow at some point, I'd like to take you through that.
Yeah, that would be good.
When you say optimization, it's very difficult to do that over time. But agents sort of is agent-based simulation is a good alternative to that, to explore a version for agent.
Okay.
So it's something you might consider.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
we've got the expert here, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Talking to you tomorrow.
Okay. Any other comments or questions to Aaron? Okay, if not, let's thank again Aaron and all the speakers for today. It's been a long day, but we now have a huge portfolio of use cases and more or less clear ideas of how to go on. So, how we will go on? Starting from tomorrow morning 9 a.m. We will reconvene here. The idea is that the different use cases can start in parallel. We will decide, we can sketch on the blackboard what are the services that they need, and the experts or the technologists will be around to drive them in the first phases of getting an account, operating system, operating the first functions, and so on. So, according to what you said, you need Future Gateway, the Open Access Repository, One Data, Kepler, and so on. All the information in the tutorial, all the slides, and the other training material is on the agenda. So, the agenda is the reference point. If there is anything missing, the experts will be here. You should make sure that you are able to log in on the forum, and if you at any time you are welcome to open topics, or you can use the post-its. You can post-it, or you can raise your hand, and we can help in developing things. The idea is that either at the end of each day or at the beginning of each day, very quickly, one slide or two slides, or even orally, you tell us where you are with the development. We don't want you to work decoupled and then discover that you are spending 2 days to solve a problem that can be solved in 10 minutes. Okay? So tomorrow we will start sketching. You have all these blackboards, the whiteboard there. You can start sketching how you want to go on. Once you decide, we will start implementing things. If you want to install any of the services that we showed in the first 2 days at your premises, we have virtual machines in several formats. You should, of course, provide some virtualized hardware, some hardware where we can install these machines. So we can decide to work on our general services or install we can help installing at your premises. We can show you how to configure so that you can go along. Of course, if you install your services, you have to make sure that somebody there can help with the system administration, of course. Any questions before we close? At any time, if there are problems that can be common, this will be left all the time here. We can just project whatever is needed to help you go on. Otherwise, we will see during the days. Okay. So we will reconvene tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
any information about what is happening on Sunday?
Sorry?
Sunday, you know,
Oh, the Sunday. Okay, we will try to see how what we can do together, or we can propose some possibilities. All the presentations of the first 3 days will be recorded, and as far as I understand, whatever we streamed is on YouTube. We will create video lectures out of all these recordings and put available on YouTube, linked from the agenda. So, thank you very much, everybody, and have a nice afternoon and evening.